everyone, it's Kayla and welcome back to my channel. So today I will be doing my TBR for the month of April. As you guys probably know from my previous videos and probably Instagram, I am a big mood reader. So coming up with a TBR to read, it's a little bit difficult for me because I usually just get uninterested with the books that I've already planned, or I am just really not in the mood for them and I get put in a reading slump. So it's not good. But I have worked out that if I give myself prompts, if I have prompts there, I can have a TBR and actually reasonably stick to it somewhat. I've discovered this because of readathons that I've participated in, and I've actually done more progress with those books than if I was to just randomly pick books off the top of my head and go off that. It seems to work better when I have a prompt I've got to deal with. What I've done in this case is I've gone along with the trend of making a game with your TBR. So I don't know if you guys have seen like the TBR Pursuit or Wheel of TBR or Bookopoly or Book Bingo, or there's heaps of them out there. But I wanted to do something very similar to that. So I have created my own little game for my TBR. What I've done is I've made a card game very similar to Cards Against Humanity. That's where I've gotten my inspiration from. If you haven't played Cards Against Humanity before, basically it's just a simple card game. It's funny. It's good fun to play when you're drinking and just hanging out with some friends. In Cards Against Humanity, you have two different colored cards. So you've got black cards and you've got white cards. The black cards are sort of like unfinished sentences, and your white cards are what you need to complete the said sentence. It probably sounds confusing that way, but it's very simple and straightforward. It takes no time at all to learn it. So in that game you have 7 white cards each, and then you go around in the circle and someone draws the black card, and then you just pick whichever white card you will go with that black card. So for example, I don't know, it'll be like, what's a great pickup line or something like that, and then you'll go through your white cards and be like, oh, that's a good one, and then put that down, and then that person has to judge which one is better. That's essentially how the game works anyway. So my game is nothing like that. I just sort of went with the 2 different colored cards and just matching things up for this TBR. So with this card game, I have 2 different decks. I've got green and I've got brown. So the green ones are basically just my genres. So we have things like contemporary. I don't know if you can actually see that, but contemporary. And then you've got hardcover or an unpopular opinion. So I will draw 2 of the green cards, 2 of the brown cards, match them up and work out which one I would prefer. I liked the idea of giving myself 2 choices, because then I've got a little bit more of control over my TBR, and also so I can prevent getting stuck in a situation where I draw classic that's like part of a series, because I don't have a classic that's part of a series. So if I do draw that combination, then I can pick the other choice because I know that I don't have that choice available for the classic one, if that makes sense. I don't know, but anyway, so I've already drawn my cards, so I'll insert the clips as I'm going along with the books that I have chosen, just to make it a little bit, I don't know, fun, different, exciting. I don't know. I actually don't know if anyone's done a TBR game like this, but I'm hoping I'm the first one, but I doubt it because I tried to do bingo before, realized that so many people had already done bingo, so hence why I came up with the Cards Against Humanity version, but I don't know. Anyway, let's get into it. Now, as I'll specify in the clip, I'm only doing 4 options just because I had a really, really crappy month in the month of March with my reading. So I didn't want to push myself too hard, I guess, because I had some other books that I really need to read. So I'll mention those other books now, and then we'll get into the clip of the game. So the first book that I really, really want to get to in the month of April is Crescent City by Sarah J. Maas. I am so looking forward to reading this. Like, I was so excited to buy it, and then it's just been sitting on my TBR cart waiting for me to read it. I am just really in the mood to read some Sarah J. Maas. I haven't completed the Throne of Glass series, but I really loved the ACOTAR series. I loved what I've read of Throne of Glass. You know, I met Sarah J Maas last year, and she is just absolutely such a genuine, beautiful human being. So I'm very much looking forward to reading this. I don't know too much about this particular one. All I know is that it's a kind of urban fantasy that's like with Fae as well, and it's set in a city that she has created herself. So it's not like New York City, it's a city that she has come up with herself, and I'm really looking forward to reading that, as chunky as it is. But again, that's why I've cut down the books that I want to read this month, because this is a chunky one and I don't know how long it's going to take me to get through it, but we will see how I go. But yes, I've heard some good things. I'm very much looking forward to reading this one. So the next book that I will be reading in April is the second book in a series that I started in March. So this series is The Order of the Rose by Alicia King. Alicia King is a Australian author, and we have been doing a read along for The Order of the Rose over on Instagram. So I've been doing that with a bunch of people in the last 2 weeks of March. We plan on doing the same thing for the second one in the month of April, and the second one is The Dragon's Heart. So I'm very much looking forward to this one as well. It's such a fast-paced, quick, easy, entertaining series, and it really keeps you on your feet. So The Order of the Rose follows our main character Carrie, who has been in an orphanage for majority of her life until she discovers that she is actually part of this special order that are essentially witches. They have magic and they're trying to stop this evil villain called Malevolent. It's one of those books where you go into it and you're like, oh yeah, this is pretty straightforward kind of fantasy, but it completely throws you off with everything that it does. Like, there's so much going on and you really can't trust anybody, we've found. So we've been having a discussion in our group and we have no idea what's going on. Like, we have all these theories, but we don't know exactly what's gonna happen in the second book. We're all sort of working out our own theories, and my head is about to explode with the amount of stuff I'm trying to contemplate that has happened in just the first book. So it's a very entertaining read, and I highly recommend it if you want something quick, something entertaining, and just a lot of fun. And it's one of those ones that just keep you guessing the whole way through. So yes, I will be reading the second one. Alright, so now that those two books are out of the road, let's get into the game. So the first one we have is Middle Grade, and that'll be pairing up with an Australian author. Then we have a classic that is Black. I don't think I'm in the mood to read a classic, so I'll probably go with The Middle Grade by an Australian author. Okay, and that first one was A Middle Grade by an Australian author. I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to find one on my shelf, but I did, and I was pleasantly surprised because this one was actually on my TBR card, and that was Nevermore by Jessica Townsend, The Trials of Morrigan Crow. I have heard some really, really good things about this series. I had no idea that Jessica Townsend was an Australian author. She's actually from Queensland, so that's pretty cool. I don't really know too much about this. All I know is that she's meant to die. Morrigan, our main character, is meant to die or something at midnight, and then she gets whisked away to another world. I don't really know a great deal. But I will read the back of this if you guys are interested and you don't really know about this. But I've heard good things. I just don't actually know too much about this. But anyway, we'll read the blurb. Morrigan Crow is cursed. Born on an unlucky day, she is blamed for all local misfortunes, from hailstorms to heart attacks, and worst of all, the curse means that Morrigan is doomed to die at midnight on Eventide. But as Morrigan awaits her fate, a strange and remarkable man named Jupiter North appears. Chased by black smoke hounds and shadowy hunters on horseback, he whisks her away to a secret magical city called Nevermore. To stay in the safety of Nevermore for good, Morrigan will need to pass 4 difficult and dangerous trials, or she'll have to leave the city and confront her deadly fate. That sounds awesome. It sounds like a great adventure, and like I said, I've heard a lot of good things about this series. I don't know how many books are out now, but I've only got the first one, but I have been wanting to read this one for some time. I've been wanting to get into Middle Grade for some time, so I'm really glad that I got the chance to put this on my TBR for April. So what I do is I chuck these all back in the piles, shuffle them again, and then we do it over again for the next 3 times. Okay, second go. We have romance. That is an audiobook or contemporary. That was published before 2010. I think I might go with the romance that is an audiobook because I think I can come up with something good for that particular prompt. The next one we have is romance that is an audiobook. So this one was fairly easy because I do have a couple of different audiobooks just sort of on my list on my phone because that's generally where I usually read a lot of my romance. I read them via ebook or audiobook. So the one that I've chosen for this prompt is Confess by Colleen Hoover. I actually used to read a lot of Colleen Hoover quite a few years ago, and I don't know why I stopped reading her books. I was really enjoying them, but Confess has been one that's been on my list, and I've just found the audiobook on Scribd, so I will definitely be reading that one because I would like to read an audiobook. I mean, if I have a chance to read an audiobook, I'm going to read it because it helps me read while I'm doing other things as well. Like, it keeps me, I guess, going with my reading. And I think this book's been out for a while, but I haven't read it. I've wanted to read it, but I just haven't gotten it. So, but it's on Scribd, it's audiobook. I've heard it's good because I do like Colleen Hoover and I do enjoy her writing, I do enjoy her stories, so I'm looking forward to reading this one. Auburn Reed has her entire life mapped out. Her goals are in sight and there's no room for mistakes. But when she walks into a Dallas art studio in search of a job, she doesn't expect to find a deep attraction to the enigmatic artist who works there, Owen Gentry. For once, Auburn takes a risk and puts her heart in control, only to discover that Owen is keeping some major secrets from coming out. The magnitude of his past threatens to destroy everything important to Auburn, and the only way to get her life back on track is to cut Owen out of it. The last thing Owen wants is to lose Auburn, but he can't seem to convince her that truth is sometimes as subjective as art. All he would have to do to save their relationship is confess, but in this case, the confession could be much more destructive than the actual sin. I think this one goes for about 7 hours, so almost 8 hours actually. It's 7 hours and 50 minutes. And I had a little bit of a listen to it because I like to know what I'm getting into with audiobooks with the narrators, because if I don't like the narrator, I'm not going to enjoy the audiobook. But I listened to this one and I believe we've got Sebastian York is the male protagonist in this one, which I've heard him in a few other books and he has a wonderful voice. So I'm very much looking forward to reading this one. It's been a while since I've read some Colleen Hoover and I'm looking forward to getting back into it. Okay, number 3. We've got middle grade again. That is an audiobook. Or Choose My Own. That was published before 2010. Okay, I might go with this one because I feel like this might be a little bit easier to come up with. But the Choose My Own is basically, as it says, I can pick whatever genre I like. It just has to be published before 2010. So we'll go with that one. The next one that I have is Choose Your Own, a book published before 2010. So like I said, it's pretty much a book that I can just pick myself, but it has to have been published before 2010. And I had a little bit of a search because I had some books in mind, but turns out they weren't published before 2010, or if they were, I wasn't really in the mood to read them. So I ended up going for one that was published way before 2010, like way before 2010, and that's Peter Pan by J.M. Barrie. I only got this edition recently, but I hadn't actually owned Peter Pan before then, but I've always wanted to read it. I did try to read it a while ago on ebook and I just couldn't get into it, so I'm hoping that this time will be different and I can actually get into it, considering I have the physical copy of it. It might be a little bit better. And it'll also help me with reading a classic a month. So last month was The Secret Garden. This month will hopefully be Peter Pan. And the last one we've got young adult. That's over 300 pages. Or a classic that is a suggestion of a friend. So with this particular one, that'll mean I just contact one of my friends to give me a recommendation for a classic they think I should read. Like I said, I'm not in the mood to read a classic.
Let me just say that I did change my mind originally about reading a classic, so hence why I chose Peter Pan before this. But let's just ignore the fact that I was like, I am not in the mood to read a classic, and yeah, let's move on from that because I changed my mind. So continue.
I might go with the young adult that's over 300 pages. And the last one that I have is a young adult that is over 300 pages. I'm really glad that I got this one because I did have one in mind, and I'm so excited that I can add it to my TBR because it was one that I was going to read no matter what I got, but I'm really glad that I can fit it into this TBR. And that is Ruin and Rising by Leigh Bardugo. This is the third and final book in the Shadow and Bone trilogy. I have been reading this trilogy and I absolutely love it. It's such an amazing story, and I love the world building. I love the characters. It's just fantastic. Leigh Bardugo just creates this wonderful world. I don't know how she does it, but it's just this on a whole different level. I love it. Yes, I really love this trilogy. I'm looking forward to reading Ruin and Rising. Well guys, so that is my little TBR game. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what you think of this game, and if there's any other prompts you would like me to add to my cards, I'm more than happy to. And yeah, I'd like to know what is on your TBR for the month of April, and feel free to give this game a go if you want to. It's really not that difficult. It took me like an evening to actually make the cards, so yeah. It wasn't too bad at all. But thanks for watching guys, and I will see you in the next video.